Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan Battle video. In this video we are going to take a look at the brand new Extreme Z Awakening for the LR Great Saiyaman 1 and 2 unit. So obviously the Great Saiyaman 1 and 2 unit are a friend summon unit, and they've recently got an EZA as part of the Hero Extermination event, and yeah, they're really good. So they're now a key +4 130% all type lead if your team includes one of each type, which is obviously something that's quite powerful. They now continue their effects from earlier, but they greatly raise their attack and defense on both their 12 and their 18 key for one turn, which is pretty good. It's a really nice pickup. They raise their attack and defense, which is honestly really good. They continue their effects of having the 2-turn attack raise on their 18 key, and they have the seal on their 12 key. It's pretty interesting, obviously, that they've given them that ability to raise their defense. Their defense can get to pretty good heights now. They have attack and defense of 70%, superclass allies get key +4 and defense of 50%, plus an additional attack of 58%, and launch an additional attack that has a medium chance of becoming a super attack when they are facing an extreme class enemy. They also lower extreme class enemies defense by being in the rotation. In terms of build, you're probably going to want to build these guys into crits, because now they can do somewhat decent damage, but they also will do a lot better offensively with crits. In terms of links, they have a very Defenders of Justice orientated build, with Patrol, Signature Pose, and Hero of Justice being their main links. They also have Infighter, Supreme Power, and Shocking Speed and Legendary Power. So they have a pretty interesting skill set. In terms of links, obviously, Shattering the Limit, not Shocking Speed. In terms of links, they do obviously have Shattering the Limit as their base link, but they also just generally pair up pretty good with obviously other Defenders of Justice units. So yeah, but it's pretty much it in terms of their design. In terms of categories, obviously they're on Signature Pose, Defenders of Justice, Majin Buu Saga, and yeah, that's really it. Movie heroes as well. For the most part, they are a pretty strong unit that is usable on all their teams. They don't have a lot of categories, but I would definitely use these guys on pretty much every team that they can be used on. They're super reliable, they're great support, they do decent damage now, and they have a fantastic amount of defense, along with also bringing great utility. So all in all, a pretty good unit. So yeah, other than that, overall, their link sets obviously designed for them to link up with Defenders of Justice units. We're talking other Great Saiyaman units, we're talking Great Saiyaman 2 and 1, possibly the free-to-play unit, and because a lot of those units are free-to-play, that means that even though they are super powerful alongside them, they're not necessarily the strongest rotation, just because obviously, you know, they do suffer in that rotation by not having the strongest linking partner. So yeah, it is quite heavy in terms of like getting them a good linking partner. It is quite difficult. There's one or two that are great, especially the new or the free-to-play into Great Saiyaman who got an EZA recently. He's fantastic. He's a great linking partner for them. So obviously he's super good. And yeah, I mean, overall, I think, you know, they're not necessarily a unit I would say you want to keep as a main rotation unit. Although they are exceptional when they get all these links up, like they're very good and they can do some really good damage, they still don't do the kind of damage that, you know, classic LR units or mainstay units do. They have 230,000 defense, which is very good. Obviously we have a very big boost from the TN unit, but yeah, they have a very good base of defense. But yeah, it's yeah, like we say, it is genuinely quite difficult to find them a good linking partner. Good damage as well, over 2.5 million, which is very good. But yeah, the issue is basically they're just not comparable really to modern DFEs and modern LRs in terms of offensive output. Their defense is great, and they bring great utility, but that's pretty much going to remain even if you just use them as a notable support unit. So from that perspective, I just don't think you can warrant making them your like main unit. So yeah, I definitely think overall you're probably better off just trying to like utilize them as a floating support unit and things like that. I think that definitely will be the better alternative. Of course, because their buffs are largely based on them fighting extreme class units and are largely based on them supporting super class allies, I definitely obviously suggest putting them on super base teams or making them in events or using them in events where they face against extreme class enemies. Obviously it is just somewhat important from their side to be able to take on those kind of enemies to get the full utilization of their kit. We can see them here without any support. They had 187,000 defense. When they activate their super attack, they will be raising that defense above 200k. So that's still a very, very, very good spot to be in overall. So it's still really solid, and their attack stat is still also again very, very solid. So yeah, it's very, very notable how much better they've gotten. But I still think their best situation is genuinely just to be a a floating support. I think the amount of defense that they provide to friend units and other allies on the team is just really, really good. I think it's their best asset really, how much stronger they make the rest of the team, especially units whose defense is maybe a tad bit low. That 50% support's very, very helpful. They also provide a seal. So just overall, they're quite rock solid units, in terms of like providing that additional support to people, helping them perform better. And I think that's really good. 4 key is also a lot of key to be providing units, especially with LR units, although a lot of them have built-in mechanisms to generate key and things like that. The fact that these units, generally speaking, provide 4 additional key is going to be super duper good overall. So yeah, just a really, really cool unit. Still has the things that made them great, and obviously just now better, like just a much more improved version. So not only is their attack stats actually meaningful now, it's not the greatest attack stat in the world, but it is still very, very usable, which is great from that perspective. But their defensive stats really caught on. They didn't have a bad defensive stat before, but now they can be taken into pretty much most events as a floating support. Even in events like the LGEGT and stuff like that, after they super in the final slot there, they should be fine to take damage. They won't be terrible. So from that perspective, they're very, very solid. So a nice little upgrade here. Very, very good unit. Super helpful and usable now. Will be able to buff your teams, will be able to help out your teams. So yeah, just a really, really good unit. And honestly, there's no real reason not to easy A them. It is a little bit difficult or challenging because you need to get units that are from the Hero Extermination event, and if you don't have those units, then you can struggle a little bit because you have to easy A those units first and then you can take on their easy A. But I mean, if you've got that down, then you shouldn't be too bad off. You should be fine. So it's just going to depend on how many of those units you've done, and if you haven't done any of those units, do you have enough of those units to make up a full team? And that's pretty much going to be the number one kind of area of focus and how to get them. The other thing you're going to have to obviously focus on is essentially just getting enough copies of them. So it's going to be a little bit difficult to get enough copies of these units because you do need to get them off of a friend summon, which is obviously a little bit challenging. You need to have enough friend points to do it. So you can't just like have, you know, you don't just start the game with enough friend points. You do need a sizable amount to get them, and you are going to need to do quite an intensive process to get these guys to, you know, SA 25. You're going to need to get 10 copies of them. You're going to then need to put 4 copies away. You're going to need to awaken those 4 copies to the SSR state, and then you're going to need to awaken the copy you've done the SA Max to the UR state. Then you have to put those 4 copies in the UR copy, and then once you've done that, you have to then come back. You have to summon for another 10 units. You have to take those 10 units and awaken them to the LR state. You then have to have both units in the LR state so that you can awaken it to rank 20. And then after that, you're going to have to get a 3rd copy, get 5 of those from the friend summon, take those copies, awaken them to LR, and then you're going to be able to get the unit to 25. Alternatively, you can get them to 20 or to 10, I guess, and then just rather use Kais. But I always try to avoid saying use Kais, even though they are super good. I just wouldn't suggest using Kais. Like in this situation, it's just not really something that you should be doing. You should always be saving Kais when you can, and free-to-play LRs are where you can save a lot of those Kais. So from that aspect, I definitely suggest that you do not use Kais, but it is going to be a lot more of a grind then. But yeah, so beyond the Kais situation, obviously, you know, beyond the investment that's required, they are a very, very good unit. Are they comparable to summonable LRs? They're different. They're very, very good. Obviously, a rainbow summonable LR, well, most of them will definitely be a lot better offensively, but they're really, really, really good binding agent for a lot of teams. They provide a lot of key, they provide defense, and so they're a really, really solid binding agent for those teams. And they just operate at a very, very good level. So I think from my angle, they definitely are worth it. And I would say if you haven't done the grind, or you haven't, you know, considered using them as a unit, it's definitely viable to do so, and you probably should. They just do a lot of work. So from that aspect, I really, really like them. And yeah, I think they're great. I think they do awesome stuff. They have a decent amount of damage now, and overall they're very, very, very rock solid. As you can see from their stats here, they have a very high level of defense, 180, 170, 160k before supering, which is great. They also obviously, in certain situations, will debuff the opposition, which is great as well. And then of course, they will be able to provide a whole bunch of additional buffs for the rest of your team in the form of, the ceiling, the attack raising on the 18 key is super helpful, the defense, the key, everything like that is just really, really great. So yeah, the only real issue is just the grind that it takes to get them is a little bit intensive, and yeah, their link set's a little bit lacking. Like, obviously they have Shattering the Limit, Legendary Power, and Supreme Power, but for the most part their real link set's only going to show up on a Defenders of Justice team, which isn't a bad thing, but it's just, that's as good as it's going to get. So yeah, beyond that, I think everything's pretty straightforward. So yeah, in terms of them, there's not too much more to say. Obviously, we've spoken about their grind to get them, we've spoken about the best ways to utilize them. I think the only other thing that, we should necessarily maybe talk about when it comes to LR Great Saiyaman 1 and 2 is just obviously the fact that as a free-to-play unit, they are going to be quite useful for new players. So if you are a new player and you're looking for a unit to grind for, then you can get them. And in doing so, the medals So the medals to get them from the Hero Extermination event are absolute ass. You require X amounts of medals from the Hero Extermination event, but the Hero Extermination event is very outdated and doesn't feature any bonus or category bonus or anything like that. So there's no real way to actually increase the amounts of medals that you'll get from the event. So it actually makes it quite difficult to farm a lot of the medals. Like, it makes it really challenging to try and farm some of the medals, because you need like six of these medals, and 6 medals of 6 different types, and sometimes you really only get one medal, like one every 1 or 2 attempts at the stage, and that's just quite challenging, because it does present an issue, because obviously you have to now farm these stages. So generally you have to try and use the bonus category and things like that, which can make it a little bit more difficult or more demanding. So yeah, no bonus category, I meant you have to try and use the boosts. But yeah, it's really quite, I want to say, quite an interesting situation. They really should improve that event. But yeah, we'll take a look at their links quickly. Obviously we spoke about them for the most part. Signature Pose, Patrol, Hero of Justice, Infighter, Supreme Power, Legendary Power, Shattering the Limit. So there's a lot of options, in terms of their like link set, but it's very designated to the Defenders of Justice category. Like, you're gonna see a lot of better stats from them personally than you will see them on any other category on the Hero of Justice, Defenders of Justice. So yeah, it is somewhat challenging there, but it is quite it is quite notable, like offensively especially, how much better they do in terms of like their performance with their link set. Their link set's a very powerful link set. Signature Pose, Hero of Justice, Patrol are all very powerful links that give quite a lot of attack and defense. So together you can actually see like quite a marketed improvement in their own individual performance if you've managed to like obviously activate a lot of their links. Without that being said, it is quite difficult then like to see the same level of individual offensive output in a situation where they don't have that kind of situation going for them. So they are drastically reduced on a team where they can't activate those links. But yeah, for the most part, everything's pretty straightforward. They're a great unit just to have. The 4 key from their passive makes up for the fact that they don't really have a lot of key links. And it's not really them that you're too concerned about, because they raise attack and defense on both their 12 and 18 key. Generally speaking, they are perfectly fine, and they manage to have decent defense no matter what. And getting their 18 key is more an offensive based thing anyway, whereas getting their 12 key is providing the seal. So you can use their 18 key for long form events where you want to boost damage, or you can use their 12 key in things like SBR where you want to kind of seal and control the enemy. Obviously, if you're fighting extreme type units or extreme class units, you're going to have a slightly better time, so you can get the medium chance to proc the additional super, and that should also help you out. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be it in terms of their link set. Obviously, Great Saiyaman 2 and 1 are a great linking unit. The Great Saiyaman unit, the Int 1 is a great linking unit. So they've got a lot of really good options that you can utilize to get the job done. But beyond that, you're just welcome to pretty much go with whatever, because they have that 4 key from their link set, from their passive. They're not really strapped in terms of selection and options for team. So yeah, from my aspect, I think that's it. But otherwise, guys, let me know if you've enjoyed the video. Let me know if you've used the unit, if you haven't used them. And yeah, otherwise, let me know if you guys enjoyed the video. If you liked the video, leave a like. Otherwise, stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time. Until then, take care. and bye.